Hi there. Welcome to Storytime. I'm Dr. Jennifer Bird. I'm a biblical scholar, and I care very much about what people do with what they find in the Bible. To that end, I have been doing this thing called Storytime, and sometimes I read a biblical passage and treat it like Storytime in the same way that I did in-person classes with undergraduate students, engaging full throttle, if you will. And sometimes I bring on other scholars to have a conversation about who they are and why that and how and why that informs what they've chosen to do as an academic. So today is one of those days. Today, bringing on a collegial friend. We've never ever met in person, but we've had a few conversations here in the YouTube space, and he's kind of the spearheader of or running things for us as for the Diablo Critics, and Kipp Davis. I'm excited to have him on. Before I bring him on, I want to touch on a couple things and just a couple heads up. First of all, I'm really pleased to say that they're finally the memberships are up and running. So if you're interested in the work I'm doing and want to support me in a small way, big way, that's one way you can do it. Someone asked me to consider memberships on my channel, and so now they're there. So thank you for those who are already supporting me that way. Thank you to everyone else who supports me by showing up here, by liking my videos and sharing them with friends, or by supporting me through Patreon, which is my handle is Biblical Bird on Patreon. Just all the various ways you just show up and support what I'm up to. I appreciate that very much. And it's really fun every now and then to hear a new person kind of show up and talk about how this kind of work that several of us are doing is really helpful for them. So anyway, I'm actually not going to do a whole lot to introduce Kipp today. I am just going to bring him on because
sorry.
Yeah, right. We're going to go live. We have our next Diablo Critics is coming up this Sunday, right? This will be
Sunday. Sunday.
Yeah,
right.
It'll be an interesting one.
But I have missed you. It's been like weeks since we've hung out.
It's true.
Right?
It's true. It has been. Yeah. And and this is your first time in this space of mine. So
yes,
welcome.
It is. And thank you. And you know what I love about you, Jen? I mean, besides everything, is that you rock.
Oh, that's really
so I was like jamming out
good
backstage there.
Yes.
Your killer intro. And it kind of does it give you, it kind of gave me like Michael Jackson Smooth Criminal sort of vibes.
I hadn't thought of that.
Am I alone in that?
I'm not as musically informed as you are. I'll just put it that way. So I did. That was for you. So I have a combination. I have a whole like repertoire of intro music, and I put that one together to do when I was going to be talking about the Christianity as thanophilic. So that was
wow.
Yeah,
nice.
That was So that was for that, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." Zombie rock is what it's called, and so I was like, "Oh, this is perfect for Kipp." Yeah,
that is perfect because I also love zombies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, I have to tell you a story.
Please. That's what you're here for.
It's a long time ago. Before it sucked, there was a show on television that was really, really, really good called The Walking Dead.
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Yes. And it was once upon a time really good.
Okay.
And kind of at the height of its run, it was like the number one show on television. It was huge. And I loved it so much that I watched it with my wife and my oldest son. Like every week we'd sit down. It was like our family
it's like
thing.
Family bonding.
So much fun. Yes. So, and I told my friends, my academic friends, I'm like, one of these days I'm going to write a paper about The Walking Dead and the Dead Sea Scrolls. And they all looked at me funny when I said that. And so I left to go to Norway to do a postdoc there
Mhm.
on working on a private collection of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I told uh, one of my Norwegian colleagues who didn't know anything about The Walking Dead. I'm like, one of these days I'm writing this paper.
Mhm.
And he thought that was weird. So but I went ahead and I wrote it.
Good.
Yes, and then I made like a PowerPoint, presentation. We had a special monthly seminar in our department for grad students,
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
I had a big open one and sent advertisements out to the whole university to have everyone
You
come in.
presented it there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
So it was, and I'm trying to. I think I just called it The Walking Dead and the Dead Sea Scrolls or
Okay.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Just very
And I
academic.
my friend, my very good friend, Professor Orstein Jusnes at the University of Exeter, he came, and I showed video clips from the TV show,
Uh-huh.
and it traumatized him for
Oh, no.
for some time. He told me that for months after that, he would like he said, "Oh, it's so bad." He's like, "I just can't
Can't
I
think about
can't
the Dead
get
Sea Scrolls the
no."
same way, or yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he couldn't get the images of people, blasting holes in zombies out of his head. It was
That is
but
really funny.
anyways, I went ahead and I submitted it for publication. I published the
Wh
article,
where? Which?
Journal of Religion and Popular Culture.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Number so
excellent.
I
Yeah,
guess, yeah,
spot
7 or
on.
8 years ago now. It's
Okay.
still maybe one of my favorite,
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
pieces of writing.
I can
I
totally
think
believe
it's really good.
yeah,
Um,
I believe
but,
that.
yeah, if you can find it, guys, check it out because 'cause
Yeah.
I'm really, really proud of that one. So,
I wonder if
there we
Pragmatic
go.
Crystal might look into see if she can I don't know, is that an open
Uh,
access journal? Do you know?
Not sure, but it's
Yeah.
called, let me see if I can remember the title here. Um, it's called Zombies in
Mhm.
America
Mm.
and at Qumran.
Uh-huh, okay.
Uh, AMC's The Walking Dead, The Dead Sea Scrolls, and Apocalyptic Redux, I think is the subtitle.
Oh,
But
goodness.
yeah, Zombies in America and at Qumran. If and I don't know if it's open access, but you know what? I
I think it
think I
is.
uploaded a copy to my academia page.
It's a Toronto Press, right? University of
Mhm.
Toronto Press?
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Well,
So
anyway, it's I was just trying to look. Some of them are accessible, but anyway.
yeah,
Cool. I that's really fun. I love that you did that, and that's the kind of stuff that I think helps people really understand what it is we're doing and why, right? I mean, when you can it's
I
like,
think so too. Yep.
these ideas are still out here, folks. This isn't new, right? They weren't really crazy. We're still doing the same thing
Yes,
with this
exactly.
concept,
Oh,
right? I mean,
can I say one
go,
more thing
go,
about
go,
that too?
go.
So I did a course, um, made an online course with our good mutual friend Derek Lambert over at
Yeah,
Myth Vision Podcast,
yeah,
MVP courses on ancient Israelite religion. This is
yeah,
a
yeah,
topic
yeah.
that I used to teach, when I taught university a number of years back, pretty regularly. So I turned this course that I taught into like an online course, and I always did the very last lecture that I did was always on apocalypticism and the emergence of early Judaism.
Nice.
And for that course, I like reworked. I reworked a lot of things, but I reworked that lecture
Uh-huh.
into basically as a representation of a visual
Right.
presentation of this article. Uh, because I mean that's kind of the whole thrust of the article that I wrote is all about this. Like you said, there it is.
Mhm.
Um,
Thank you, Pragmatic
like
Crystal.
you said, none of this stuff is new. So the apocalypticism is real, and it's like it's current. This is the way I think that most people in certainly in the Western world think. And we do this
Oh,
instinctively. It's
yeah.
hardwired into us through
Okay.
like generations and generations
Okay.
of
We
of social. You have a question, you have a
No, we
comment.
need to unpack
You're
that. Okay,
okay.
I'm like, "Okay, I can't decide if I wanna, like, ask you to say more about that or come back to it. Let's just do it
Okay.
now so I don't forget,
All
right?"
right.
Um, say more about that. Instinctively? I don't know that I
I
agree with that, so convince me.
so maybe so I think this is what I think The Walking Dead really plugged into
Okay, okay.
is that there is uh I believe in the mid late 20th century, early 21st century modern America. I'm doing that in scare
Right,
quotes
as in
because I don't live in
in
I
the
I
United
live in
States.
America's hat
Yeah.
in Canada, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So America.
Uh-huh.
So within modern America, I believe that there is, and this all a lot of this just has to do with post World War II, Cold War,
Right.
fall of the Iron Curtain,
Uh-huh.
um, emerging social media stuff. I think we exist in this space where we all feel like we're just hurtling towards the end, that we
Okay,
live in a world that is kind of harboring these anxieties about their own existence.
okay, okay. I
D-
can
do
track with that to a
does
certain degree.
does that
Mhm.
work? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there are a lot of people who yes, who kind of say the world is basically constantly trying to end us or something, like, there are things happening all the time, blah, blah, blah. But anyway,
the
so
the
I
planet is
yeah,
dying,
yeah,
and
right,
it's
right.
our fault,
And it is
right? I think this
there's that.
is, and I think this is something certainly more, within the last 20 years, I think is becoming much more acutely felt
Right. Agreed.
um
Mhm.
by, right. So I
Yeah,
think this is sort of the undercurrent.
okay,
This is in my estimation sort of the outworking of an apocalyptic worldview.
okay.
This idea of the impending end
Yes, that is
of
very
things,
apocalyptic, isn't it? Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Now, my like I like there's a number of different definitions of apocalypticism. One
Mhm.
I particularly like is by a scholar, Lorenzo di Tomaso. I don't know if you're
No,
familiar with
I'm
him or
not.
his work,
No.
and I don't know where he is now. But he wrote some really excellent stuff on this stuff on these topics a few years
Okay,
ago. So
okay.
he used to say, and I agree with him about this, that apocalypticism is not this isn't so much a literary thing as it is a worldview.
Yes,
Uh
agreed. Agreed.
right?
Yeah, right, for sure.
So, and some of the features of this are this sense that you know we are on a timeline, moving forward
Mhm,
through history. um Within ancient cultures, there's this sense that everything is kind of fixed and preset, that there's a god, there's like a supreme being over top of everything, watching, is seeing the beginning from the end and the end from the beginning, and
right,
has
right.
all of this planned out,
Plot it
right?
out, right?
and
Mhm.
and we're just along for the ride. It's very fatalistic in that sense, that
Mhm.
we have no control over where we came from, where we're going. There are, dark forces and forces of good that are, in conflict with one another and are intervening in our world. And this is all ultimately going to culminate. There's inherent in this idea also is this sense that everything is just getting worse and worse and worse
Yes,
as we
yes, for
move
sure.
forward.
That's a thing you see a lot, right? Hear people
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
So now what I think a show like The Walking Dead has picked up on all of this stuff, right?
Okay. Okay.
And they've
Okay.
you know constructed this dystopian universe out of those sorts of feelings.
Yeah. Fears and
Um
yeah. Okay.
and then worked out this story of human solidarity and survival,
Mm,
but
mm.
kind of a hopeless one,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Like here's where the catch is. At least up until I stopped watching
Okay.
The Walking Dead. I don't know what happened after like season 6 or 7.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
anyways, so but up to that point, it was just a constant slog of hopelessness.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, very nihilistic, right?
Yeah.
You
It's a great
had
thing to
these
bond
you
over.
had these
Yeah. Good family
Yeah,
bonding material. Uh-huh.
right? My oldest kid,
Yeah. Is
loved
he
it though.
okay?
Uh,
Has he been through
he's
therapy?
he's a little dark,
Okay.
but
Okay. But I mean, he's your child, so you know.
yeah, he is. He's a good kid.
Mm.
So, but he would tell you he's a realist, right?
Okay. Mhm.
He's one of those guys.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so the Walking Dead, it picks up on a number of themes that I think are part of this
Okay.
apocalyptic worldview. That's
Gotcha.
it's this dystopian, the world is ending kind of idea.
Yeah.
There's this strong sense of the survival of a remnant,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Who's
Okay.
who's sort of holding on to the hope of
Okay.
humanity.
Okay.
I think that there's messages in the Walking Dead about ritual purity,
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah, sure. I feel like I need to go start watching just to, you know, it's probably
Right.
streaming on
Well,
one of the
just
streaming platforms.
if you think through
Mhm.
even just this sharp dichotomy between insiders and outsiders that is cast by the zombie narrative.
Okay.
Um Human beings, the non-dead
Right. Right.
are, are always in danger of being
Being dead.
infected.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's how it's transmitted, right? It's
Okay.
through infection. You have to be careful about, the water you drink. You
Uh-huh.
can't let them get near you, because if they scratch you
Uh-huh.
or
Uh-huh.
it could get into the bloodstream, or
Right.
you
Right.
know, it's infectious. And
Okay.
I think
Okay.
this plays into it. And then
Yeah.
there's this
Yeah.
very sharp insider outsider polemic too, which is
Sure.
which is a big component of a lot of these ancient
Yes.
apocalyptic
Yes.
narratives, and I think these carry forward into our modern world as well. But
So, I think that's valid, right? I think that's in terms of it does carry through, and there are plenty of people talking like that, and I think there's this piece of me though, I don't I've never really resonated with Revelation. I just don't like apocalyptic material. I don't like the all the
because you're
gore.
super enlightened.
Wait, what?
I said it's because you're super
Oh,
enlightened. That's why.
okay. Well, that wasn't what I was going for here, just so we're
All
clear.
right.
But
But you
no,
don't,
but
so you don't like
no, I
Revelation.
don't like apocalyptic material. I don't like
Mm,
Revelation. I don't like
mm.
so I think that was part of why I kind of was resisting when you said this is kind of a thing that's inherent to human thinking or ways of making
Mm.
sense of and dealing with the terror or the fear or the things
Yeah.
and I get that's what's going on, and I get, like, that's why I appreciate that there are others who do like to deal with Revelation. I just really don't, and I keep trying. Like, I keep reading Lynn Huber, or, I'm having Tina Pippin on next week. I don't know if you know these folks in Newer Testament studies, but, like, I'm trying, and I just can't get there, So, um,
Well, It's like and that's another real important part of this too, right? Like it's a persecution narrative.
Yes. Right. Total yeah.
And
And
I
some
I
people
think
that appeals to some people more than others, is that what you're saying?
oh yes, yes. And here's why maybe you don't like it,
Oh,
and
okay,
I totally get that. And there's, and I'm on board with that too.
right.
But
Yeah.
here's why we all should care.
Oh, I like
Um
that. I like that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, so I think we are living in a world in which, and when just so people understand, when I'm talking about apocalypticism and the book of Revelation as, a persecution narrative, what I'm saying is these texts are born out of this sense of total powerlessness.
Right.
The Dead Sea Scrolls, the book of Daniel, some of this earlier apocalyptic literature within Judaism emerged out of the Ptolemaic period of history. So, late third century going into the second century.
Mhm.
This kind of really exploded during the Hasmonean revolt, is all grounded in this kind of stuff. So these are
Mhm. Mhm.
people who are feeling powerless in the face of empirical forces.
Right.
And this powerlessness is
Mhm.
contributing to their imaginations of how to fix
Yes.
these problems. We
Yes.
can't fix them ourselves.
Right.
The only way out of this is if God will save us,
Intervenes. Yep. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So that's where this comes from. This is a problem because we live in a world now where, like, I think a majority of American Christians
Mhm.
continue to harbor these sorts of feelings, but from the perspective of the empowered.
Exactly. Like, that's not justified the way they're the what it's being yes. They
And
misunderstand
at
the
that
book, and that helps
Yeah,
perpetuate the problem. But yeah,
and
I
at that point,
fully agree.
it becomes super, super dangerous,
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
It's a
I
problem.
absolutely agree with you. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. So, thank you for that explanation and teasing that out for us a little bit. Which all the more I'm like, "Okay, yeah, now let's go back and,
Yeah,
let's do a little bit of your stories for story time," right? I don't
for
know how
sure.
much to what you're open to talking about. I'm sure you've probably talked about it elsewhere, I don't know. I know that Derek has scholars on to talk about them, kinda tell their story every now and then,
Mhm.
so I don't know if you've done that with him, but I have bits and pieces of your story,
Oh, yeah, okay.
so, right, and with some scholars, like, it's like, what was your childhood like that kinda set you on this trajectory? Were there some moments in your life that, kinda that sent you whatever, I don't know. So whichever how early and however early you want to go was
I have 2 words for you:
oh, okay.
picture Bible.
Oh, you liked yours, huh?
Oh my god. I wore the cover
Oh,
off of that
oh,
thing.
okay. Wow. What
So, I think it was published when I was, like, 7,
okay.
maybe 8 years old,
Yeah.
and yes. So, the reason I'm a biblical scholar, I think, is probably because of the picture Bible.
Okay. Wow. I love it. So, okay, so how explicit was this picture Bible? Like, that's the thing
Do
is
you know
sometimes
do you know it?
not
The
specifically.
picture Bible? Oh,
No, I didn't know
wow.
there's
So
just one called The Picture Bible. No, I'm not familiar
There
with it.
was a book
Mhm.
published in the it would have been the late '70s, early 1980s
Okay.
called The Picture Bible. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure you can still get it.
I was just thinking
Uh,
that. Let's do that real quick. I'm gonna pull it up.
it's a
Yeah.
comic book. It's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
graphic it's a it 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 it's one of the maybe one of the early. There you go.
Is it this one
And
over here?
mine
Is it this one?
Mine looked like the red one that looks like a leather-bound Bible, number 4 to
This
the
oh,
that's the one. Same
okay.
color and everything. That's the one that I have.
$99 on
Holy crap!
eBay.
It's $99 on eBay. Wow.
Okay. This is yeah,
So it
okay.
is it
Sorry,
is
I'm just
a it is the Bible,
oh my gosh.
in the form of a graphic novel,
Okay.
basically,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I loved that book
Well,
so much.
okay. And so what I just pulled up briefly showed some pretty, like, not hiding the violence kinda stuff, right? And so was it pretty explicit that way?
Yes-ish.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
It was, but it was, I mean, it was of course, it was a very, strongly evangelical,
Right. Of course. Of course.
conservative presentation of
Yes.
the traditional story.
Right.
But parts of it that absolutely appealed to me, as a child, and then as a young adult, were like the ways in which it also worked hard to try and integrate itself into an historical timeline.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there was
Mhm.
that, and then
Mhm.
there was one other thing. But I come from a town called Calgary.
Yes,
Is
heard of it.
in
Heard of it.
Yay! It's in the province of Alberta,
Indeed.
in the
Yep.
in our home and native land of Canada.
Mhm.
It's right on the eastern foothills of the Rocky Mountains. Beautiful place.
Mm.
It's famous, for an event every summer called the Calgary Stampede, which is
Oh,
a
wow.
a giant rodeo
Cool.
and an exhibition.
Okay.
Used to go it's just something you did when you were in Calgary. You went to the Calgary
Sure.
Stampede.
Right. Right. Who would miss it?
My parents one year when we went, there's like I said, there's a huge exhibition, right?
Mhm.
Not just animals, although like there's an agricultural expo, but there's
Sure.
there's like merchants and stuff too
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
So
From
that's
all
where
over. Yeah.
all the snake oil salesmen, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, speaking of, one year, my parents, and it was actually, I'm pretty sure it was my grandparents, because I don't think my parents could afford it
Ah, okay.
on their own. But
Okay.
but there was a booth at the Calgary Stampede where, these people had like, and they looked like big white suitcases
Okay.
filled with cassette tapes.
Oh,
For the kids out there,
right.
cassette tapes
Okay.
are, I don't know. God, now I have no idea how to describe.
Oh, right, because some people watching might not know what you're talking about.
Maybe
Yeah.
not.
It's,
Uh, they're like, I don't know. You put it's like tape.
well,
It's
you
like
know
a
the
tiny
whiteout
little
thing that
miniature.
you kinda
Yeah, there.
roll it
There you
through
go.
and it swirls and redoes and yeah, it's that, but music on the tape
Yeah,
instead of
it
whiteout.
has audio on it, and you stick it in a. It's called a tape recorder, and
Right.
you would listen to it, or you could even
Yes.
record. You could
You could
record on
record,
them.
I know, it was pretty special.
So magnetic tape. There we go.
There we go.
That can
Thank you,
record
Carrie
sound.
Ann.
Thank you, Carrie Ann.
AAC
Uh,
showing up.
so suitcase full of
Okay.
these cassette tapes, right?
For
And
the children's listening pleasure.
yes,
Mhm.
and there were 2 suitcases.
Okay.
In the one was called character building dramas.
Wow. Okay.
These were stories of edification
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
morality tales
Mhm.
that, for helping the young people
Mhm.
to grow up to
Mhm.
be good Christians, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
There were six, and I don't think there were I think there was actually 69 of them. So
Why am I such a child sometimes? Yes,
I
that's That's good stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
I
it's,
felt
yeah. So
so
that was
did
in the
I mean,
one.
is this like
The
they're
other
drawing on
one,
Samson and David
well,
and
listen.
all the
So
usuals,
these
if
were
they're not
just these were just the morality tales, right?
so it
In
wasn't biblical.
the other suitcase
Oh, okay, yeah.
was the Bible drama.
Okay.
Creation
Oh, yeah.
to the martyrdom of the Apostle Paul
Oh, wow.
in like 52 cassette tapes.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And it was
Wow.
all these were dramatized
Mhm.
stories
Okay.
basically from beginning
Yeah.
to end. So, and I wore those out too, because you could. The
Okay.
the the
Alright.
drawback of the magnetic tapes are you can wear them out.
You really
So,
could.
all
Yes.
that to
Yes.
say, listen, from the time I was a kid,
Yeah.
I was immersed
You were.
in
Yeah.
in in the Bible. I
Yeah.
when I was, like, 11 years old, I could tell you who Nabopolassar the Great was,
Oh, wow.
right?
Mhm. I
So,
don't know who that is. Who is that? Nabal
that's the father of, Nebuchadnezzar the
Oh, oh,
second.
oh, 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 okay. Uh-huh. Mhm.
So, now you
Yeah,
get
that's
it.
impressive at 11.
So,
Okay.
just right?
That's 6th
So,
grade? Yeah, that's impressive.
that's that's where it started for me, I
Okay.
think. It just I had this instilled passionate love,
Mhm.
for the Bible. I remember going so, you're drawing it out of me, Jen. I've got
I bet
stories
you do.
for years.
I'm sure you do, right?
When I was, um I don't know. Oh, I was probably 13, 14, maybe 15 years old. The third installment of the Indiana Jones franchise
Mm,
hit the theaters.
okay.
I and my friends from school were big time
Okay.
Indiana Jones
Yeah, it's good stuff.
guys,
Yeah, it's good stuff.
right?
Yeah,
And we
at the time,
went
not anymore.
on, something that people also used to do, kids, is we used to go, when a movie premiered, we used to go to the theater on
Theater. Mhm.
opening day,
Yeah, yeah,
and we
yeah.
had to stand in line
Yes.
outside of the theater to get
Right. To
tickets,
get tickets, yeah, and to wait
and you
until you could get inside.
and you had to wait,
Yeah.
and there was no picking your seats or any of this nonsense, right? You just you just fought your way through and climbed over the dead bodies to get the best seat in the theater.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
went to go see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This is the one about, the Holy Grail and, all that.
Mhm.
We were walking home from the theater. We're all like jacked up on sugar and
Totally,
super
yes, yeah,
excited
yeah.
about this movie, and we're all like, "Ah!"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're like 15-year-old boys, right? We're
Yes,
we're
yes.
we're we're just
Yeah,
and
living the best
w
life. Mhm,
yeah, and
mhm,
I have this distinct memory
mhm,
of, there's like this one scene in the movie where, Indiana Jones he has to go get the Holy Grail, and he has to pass through these
mhm,
3
mhm,
trials.
mhm,
He's got this special,
that's right.
secret coded medieval book telling him about, how to pass,
Mhm,
the trials with his
mhm.
life intact. And the third one, it says, um oh shoot, what does it say? It has something about, there's this great chasm between him and his destination point, and it says something to the effect of, only by a leap of faith
Mhm.
may the faithful man
The
pass, or
righteous
something
man,
like
yeah.
that.
Mhm, mhm.
Right, and he's looking, and from his perspective, all he can see is like the
The
chasm
abyss. Yep,
before him.
yep.
And he like grabs his chest, he psychs himself up and he holds his breath and he sticks his foot out and steps forward and he lands
Right. It's a very
on.
powerful moment. Yeah. Mhm.
It is,
Intense. Yeah.
and then, the camera sort of pans to a new angle, and you see that the surface of the bridge is painted to match exactly the perspective of the
Person walking.
chasm below,
Yes.
right? And,
Yes. Yeah.
at one point, we're blabbing away about all the amazing things in this movie, and somebody
Right,
talked
right,
about how
right.
cool that was, and I was
Totally. It
like,
was.
it was, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." I don't even remember how we got into it, but I was like, it was almost like a miracle, and
Yeah, yeah.
you had the
Yeah.
faith and all this,
Right.
and one of my friends just said to me, he says, "Well, I don't believe in all of that nonsense."
That was
And I
shocking,
was
right?
Yeah, because I was like, I grew up, in the church. I
Mhm,
went to public school.
mhm.
But, like, most of my friends were from this big church that I went to with my parents, and we went every Sunday twice, and we
Uh-huh,
went every Wednesday evening,
uh-huh, uh
and, I was there every Friday or Saturday night as well.
Wow.
So, like,
Wow,
this
yeah.
was my
It was your
world. These were
social people. Yeah, social
I
world.
and I just it I had no inkling that anyone would
That
question.
that was even possible to not believe in them, right? Yeah.
Like, what the hell are you talking about? And we got into, you know, the Exodus and the conquest and Adam and Eve and creation, all this stuff, right? And I'm
How do you not
like,
believe?
come on. I read the picture Bible.
Yes.
So
Wow,
it
yeah.
it just but it set me on this like a lot of this stuff just set me on this path and ingrained in me, the grand significance and importance of this book and its place in ancient history and modern history to the point that I just I it was I became obsessed with everything I could learn about the Bible. At the first opportunity I had when I graduated high school, um, I tootled around in New Zealand
Mm,
for
oh,
like a year.
oh,
Truth
cool.
be told, I went to there's a discipleship school, a Christian discipleship school. They have campuses all over the world called the Cape and Ray Fellowship of Torchbearers.
I've never
So
heard of that. Wow.
really, oh
Yeah, that's
wow,
quite a
yeah.
name.
So
Yeah.
and they have campuses. The main one is in the UK, not that far from the city of Manchester.
Okay.
It's my alma
That's your
mater.
yeah, right.
But that's sort of the founding campus, and it's called that because it was housed at Cape and Ray Hall, which is a grand old castle
Ah,
in England.
okay.
But they have campuses in Switzerland and Austria. There's one here. It's actually pretty not that far from where I live on Thetis Island,
Yeah.
just off the
Heard of
coast
Thetis
of
Island. Yeah.
British Columbia. There's a campus in Australia, and there's one in New Zealand. I was a bit of an angry, troubled kid, and a lover of the Bible.
Yeah.
When I finished high school and I was in a situation where I felt like I needed to get as far away from home as I could,
Mm.
and I wanted to go somewhere where I could extend my snowboarding season into the summer.
I mean, you got your you know yourself, right? You got your you got your
So
priorities.
so I
Are you
went to New
are you going
Zealand
to news?
and
Okay.
spent a year there. And honestly, it really wasn't for the discipleship school stuff, but that made a big impression. And I came home with this impression that I was destined to go into the ministry.
Uh-huh.
I went to Bible school. The very first opportunity I had,
Mhm.
I enlisted in Introduction to Greek and
Mhm.
Hebrew.
Okay.
and it all just kind of it all just kind of exploded from there. I started at a local college in my hometown of Calgary, Alberta. It's gone. It was called Rocky Mountain College, which
Okay.
sounds super cool, right? Who wouldn't
Sort of.
want to go there?
Yeah. Well,
So, it's not as cool as it sounds though.
yeah,
Uh,
I figured from the way you set that one up.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I got in with like this 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 crowd of like super strict 5-point Calvinist
Oh.
type of reformed
Mhm.
theology bros
Mhm.
that I can't stand anymore.
Right, right.
Um and after a year at Rocky Mountain College, I decided that they were just way too warm and fuzzy for for my liking.
Are you
So,
kidding me?
I'm
Wait, we
not.
need to
I
clarify something for people.
Yeah,
You said the 5-point Calvinist. This is a
mhm,
reference to tulip, right? Total
yeah,
depravity. Can you fill me can you it's
unconditional. So it's let's see if I can total
yeah,
depravity.
which is the part that's all I need to know. Like that's total
um
depravity. Yeah, great, thanks.
Unconditional, someone in the chat knows this.
Probably, yeah.
Unconditional something,
Salvation.
limited atonement,
Oh, right.
um,
Oh,
irresistible grace,
grace, yes.
uh,
That's alright. But I just wanna make sure to give people a general sense
uh,
that when you say they're too warm and fuzzy, that this is like, "Whoa, okay," because just this set of this framework is really, repellent to me, and so for that to be too kind, you needed something a little more
hmm.
strict, is what you're saying. You need people
Oh,
taking a little more
yes.
seriously,
Yes.
a little
I
closer attention to
was
the Bible, right?
I was, to put it another way, I was I listened to, Grace to You religiously. This is, John MacArthur's,
Oh,
radio
right.
show. This I was
You were
right into
mhm,
this kinda stuff. So
okay.
I transferred to another, Bible college out
Okay,
here on the
okay,
West Coast where I now live, called Northwest Baptist Bible College and
okay,
Seminary,
okay.
which was housed on the campus of Trinity Western
Aha,
University,
okay.
an evangelical Christian
Mhm,
university.
okay,
Now, the way this works is they cross listed a bunch of the courses between the college and the university to save
okay.
on resources and
Mhm,
logistics and things like that.
sure.
So, my very first class at Northwest Baptist Bible College and Seminary was Introduction to New Testament Greek with Martin G. Abegg, who is an expert in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Aha.
One of my still very good friends,
Aw,
who
nice.
and he ended up being my MA thesis supervisor
Yeah.
after a long time.
Oh, okay.
But
Cool.
the year that I arrived there as a student was his first year there
Oh, wow.
as a teacher, and
Yeah.
he was brought in along with, the late great Professor Peter Flint, who was also a Dead Sea Scrolls scholar.
Okay.
They were headhunted by, Craig Evans. That's a name that you
That's a
know.
name I know.
So, and Craig Evans brought them in because he wanted to establish an institute for the Dead Sea Scrolls,
Oh,
and
wow.
this was rolled into the introduction of their brand new graduate program. You could get
Interesting.
a Master of Arts degree in Biblical Studies
Okay.
at Trinity Western University, and most people would do work and really good work too, like kind of cutting edge sort of critical work in Dead Sea Scrolls manuscripts. So I
Oh, wow.
didn't know anything about the Dead Sea Scrolls
Okay.
before I arrived
Okay.
at Trinity Western University,
Okay.
but I was super impressed by my new professor of New Testament Greek, and I knew that he was a big deal in the Dead Sea Scrolls community. And as part of launching the graduate program and the institute, they had a big conference,
Right.
as one
Right.
does,
No,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So they invited in a couple of luminaries in the field. The keynote speaker was John J. Collins.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. And this was I was no, so I'm like, how old was I? I would have been 21 years
Okay.
old,
Okay.
an undergraduate, literally like second year of Bible college.
Okay.
I went to this academic conference
Right.
because
Yeah.
this was a big deal
As a young
on
one. Yeah.
campus, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I went.
Yeah.
I sat down.
I had no idea.
They started reading papers, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?"
Like such heresy or what? Such what?
I think it was mostly boredom.
Oh.
Like I was like, it was, and maybe a little heresy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not gonna lie. Yeah, probably a
Yeah.
little heresy, but most of it was like, "Oh my god, this is so boring."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's it was yeah, it was that. But you know, this is I over time, I you know, as I became a more savvy student, I you know, and as I got immersed in the languages, and then I had to do like practical stuff when you're studying for the ministry.
Mhm, mhm.
They you know, and you have to go
Absolutely. Yeah. I did,
do some work.
I did
Where'd you
yep.
go?
I went to, I was at Princeton, so I got to go into the city, and I did a year
Mm.
at Madison Avenue Presbyterian Church as, like, kinda learning the ropes, but I also got to do, a hospital chaplaincy, and I really loved that.
Oh,
That was
nice. Yeah, I think
yeah, I've
that's
actually
pretty
thought about
cool.
returning to that because I just think it's really
Oh,
important work. Yeah,
yeah.
it's really good. Anyway, yeah.
Wow.
So,
That would
yeah,
be
no,
cool.
it's a
Yeah,
thing, right? It's important
yeah,
to Mhm,
absolutely.
mhm.
So I did an internship at like at an so I was interning while I was in school at a Baptist church out in my neck of the woods here. And
Okay.
then I did a summer internship at a local Christian church, in
Mhm.
evangelical Christian church, in my hometown in Calgary. Um, and it was during that summer internship I discovered that I like studying.
Mm.
I like preaching.
Okay.
Not so fond of people.
That's hilarious.
And I felt like I I don't know how much I like this.
Uh-huh,
So I
uh-huh.
sort of switched tracks, and I
Mhm.
ended up, you know, shifting my focus to work more on academic biblical content. Hold on, Satan 616. No, the Dead Sea Scrolls are not boring, but they might be if you are 21 years old.
Well, and also, there is a difference, and I think ultimately what
An
you were highlighting
academic
for me
conference.
yeah, I mean, an
If
academic
you've
setting is very intense and serious, and people there have done I kinda chuckle when when I see people in kind of these, spheres, they're like, "I did a deep dive on this," or whatever. I'm like, "You don't even know what a deep dive looks like."
You do not.
Spend thousands of hours learning on a particular slice of a field, and then you know what a deep dive is. Anyway, but yeah,
And I think,
academic
yeah, like I didn't start to like I started going to SBL conferences probably in my last year of like grad school.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then like when I was doing my PhD, I was there, you know, at SBL as often as
Right,
I could get, right? But
exactly, yeah.
I think it probably took me like the first couple that you're at, I don't know if this is your experience, but the first couple of SBL conferences, for those who don't know, that's the Society of Biblical Literature. They have an annual meeting every year in the United States. Thanksgiving weekend,
It
right?
used to be sometimes it was in Toronto a few times.
Once. It was in
Okay, I
Toronto
went when
once.
was it only once? I went when it was
Yes.
there. Gosh, I thought it was
The
okay.
I missed that one actually.
Mm.
But the reason they never went back is because the book publishers, um, it was such a circus getting, their stuff through
Gotcha.
customs,
All the custom
right?
stuff. Interesting.
So the book exhibit was I was told it was not great
Oh,
that
that's
year.
interesting. Yeah, that was one of my
Yeah.
first years, so I don't know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
I
sorry,
mean
you
that's
go.
and that
Mhm.
was my so
Mhm.
the first few
Yeah, tell me yeah,
SBL
what was your
conferences that I was at, like it's overwhelming, right?
oh my
Because
gosh.
you quickly discover that I who knew that there were, 12,000 biblical scholars
And scholars of religion, yeah.
and
Mm,
scholars of religion,
interested in
ah,
getting together. Yeah.
right? So I think that's sort of the first thing
Right?
that you get over. And then the second thing is, oh my God, there's a lot of books here.
It's like a
Uh,
candy store for yeah, for intellectuals, right? I mean, it's
so and that was my favorite thing
for
in,
sure,
early
for
on.
sure.
It's still one of my favorite
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But honestly, like those first few sessions that you go to, I'm like, these look interesting on paper, but when you get there, I was like, "Oh, I'm fighting to get through,
Yeah, yeah.
some of this." And some of this too is just because, let's be honest, there are a lot of people in our field who just suck at presenting.
Okay, right, there is that. Mhm. There's
Uh,
that. I thought you were
you
gonna go
know,
the route of so many people are really just kind of, reading things with a grain, they're not trying to
that
disrupt
too.
anything, they're just trying to
Yes.
add one little interesting nugget to this massive field of knowledge or whatever, you know?
I
And so,
I
yeah,
think
it's really
early on, I don't know about you. Early on, it took me some time to actually come to to see that,
yeah,
more
okay,
clearly,
okay.
but I totally agree with you, right?
Mhm.
Um, so, anyways, yeah, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
SBL.
So starting to
I
figure
didn't
this
mean
out, yeah.
yeah. So, but I was going to I started on that because I was talking about internships and change
Yes, right,
of
and what did you would
direction,
switch
right?
to? Yeah, right.
So I upon graduation I just enrolled right away into the grad program
Okay.
at Trinity
At Trinity.
Western.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was an excellent program.
Oh, good.
And I was already, into the scrolls at that point. And the things that a lot of the things that I really liked, they were very keen to to work with me on. And just to kind of give people a sense here. So,
Yeah.
um, the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is maybe one of the things that I was supposed to talk about here.
Well,
Uh,
this is the whole point, is just getting your story, and then we will, in
yeah.
some ways, talk
Okay.
about what you've done, but yeah.
So the Dead Sea Scrolls, these are fragments of mostly Hebrew, also lots of Aramaic and a smattering of Greek manuscripts in the Judean desert. Tens of thousands of small fragments that scholars have managed to reconstruct into about 1,000 individual scrolls. One of the key elements of this work, one of the things that I'm really keenly interested in still today, is scribal cultures, uh, paleography, manuscript reconstruction, so manuscript construction,
Mhm.
and as a result of that, reconstruction. What I spend a lot of time doing, and what I sort of grew up doing in my scholarly journey, was taking these you know fragments,
Fragments, yeah, yeah,
putting them together, figuring out what belongs where inside
really.
of which manuscript, attempting to calculate manuscript dimensions, sizes,
Oh, wow.
column widths, and
Cool.
heights, and what can we know about a manuscript just based on, the physical features.
Cool.
I I dig a lot of this kind of stuff,
That's
right?
really interesting.
But
Yeah,
this
no, I didn't know that, like, you were working
this
with, I mean, obviously
yeah.
gloves
Well,
gloves on
at
hand,
this
but
at this time, not yet, right? Like
oh,
in
okay.
grad school, all I had were photographs
Okay,
and
okay.
and things of that nature. But I was already starting to process, to think through
Yeah,
in my head, how do you do this? How do you reconstruct fragmentary manuscripts, and how do you come up with meaningful interpretations of the content when there's so much of the stuff that's absent, that's missing, right?
right,
So
right.
and the great thing about this is the at the time, so this was in the 1990s and the early 2000s. It's not like this anymore. It's tragic, but at the time, Trinity Western University, this little evangelical school on the West Coast here in Canada, housed this graduate program, which was internationally renowned
Okay.
as a
I mean,
center where graduate students at the master's level could go and work on Dead Sea
mm,
Scrolls
mm,
material with experts, not on the actual text themselves,
right,
but they
but
they were fostering all these innovative, cutting edge
cool,
approaches to the material.
cool.
So I just kind of lucked out and
Yeah,
happened to be
okay.
in the right place at the right time. I had my reconstruction bone tickled.
Yeah,
I don't know.
right,
Uh
right.
and it stuck. So
Huh,
this is kind of
that's
where I was, and this is
okay,
what we did at its height, which is when I was in the program. The program, like, it wasn't big. There was it had a capacity of 35 students every
okay,
year.
okay.
um but I had like a huge waiting list. Like
Mhm,
there were
mm,
200 people
mhm,
applying to get in to the graduate program at Trinity when at the time that I was there, and everybody wanted to come in
mhm.
order to study with Peter Flint, Marty
Aha,
Abig.
okay.
Oh, and Craig Evans is okay too, I guess. So,
Right, right.
but yeah, so
It was the
that's
Dead Sea Scrolls was the draw.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's where I was.
that's
And
really
then
cool.
yeah, so and that's kind of where that's where it all started for me. I wrote my MA thesis. Oh, actually,
Oh,
it's over here. Sorry. Uh there we go.
wow.
Oh, wow, that's weird. Oh, that just means I need to feed a dog. Sorry.
Okay, uh-huh,
So my MA thesis
uh-huh.
says
Oh,
4Q382 Elijah and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Oh,
alright.
no, you're not supposed to see my legal name. Whoops. Um oh no, everyone's gonna rewind it now. God damn it.
Why do you not like your legal name?
Uh, I don't know.
That's a whole story, I'm sure, but
I
anyway,
I think
you just
it's probably, I mean, Sigmund Freud would probably tell you it's my mother's fault. So yeah, I
okay,
I have
okay,
issues.
okay.
Oh,
But now we know.
anyways,
Yeah.
moving on, everyone.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
but I'll give you a I'll get I'm not going to show you
You're
my
gonna read
legal
it to us?
name,
Yeah.
but no, I'm not even gonna read it to you. I'm just going to give you a sense of what this looks like. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah, that's
see,
good.
I literally did like
Mhm.
a critical edition
Okay.
of uh you know
Isaiah.
this manuscript is about Elijah and Elisha,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's papyrus, which
Uh-huh,
is
uh-huh.
crazy awful
Yeah,
stuff to work with.
yeah,
I hate it.
yeah.
I much prefer, most of the Dead Sea Scrolls are like animal skins.
Right, right.
They're parchments.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it's way
Hangs
better
together a little
working with this.
better than the double layer of reeds smashed together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mind you, the one thing I do like about papyrus. I just don't have the patience for it. But the one of the things that's really great about working with papyrus in the stuff that I do is you've got another feature of material which helps to inform you on how to reconstruct things because of the grain of the
Mhm.
papyrus on the backing as well as the front of the manuscript, right?
Right. Yeah.
So these are things that like when I'm looking at fragments, right away I'm just trying to figure out, oh, how do I put these things together, kind of thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Little puzzle.
Yeah. Yes,
Very
it's a giant jigsaw puzzle. So somebody has it's often been described, the Dead Sea Scrolls have often been described as like the world's most elaborate jigsaw puzzle where most of the
mm.
pieces are missing and the picture on the box is gone too.
Yeah. So take that, you 5,000 piece puzzlers. Yeah. See if you can
So
do this.
yeah,
This
there
might
you
be a
go.
good I'm gonna interrupt your story briefly to
Yeah.
do a couple of the, super chats.
Oh,
I
nice.
appreciate all of them, by the way. We'll get to them in due time. But Philip, A. Demick, $5. What does Neo-Genesis Evangelion get right about the Dead Sea Scrolls?
I don't know what Neogenesis even, do you know what that is? What is Neogenesis Evangelion?
No, my sense is, uh,
Is that a text or a channel?
it sounds
Or
like
a
a text, but that's
It kinda
interesting.
does.
It's probably a channel then.
I'm
I don't know.
sorry. I feel bad, Philip, that you dropped,
Mhm.
money on that question because
Mhm.
I don't know what the Neogenesis, Evangelion is. I should look it up maybe. Neogenesis Evan
But then it would take time to, yeah, see what they're
it
doing and
could
saying,
take
but
some
yeah.
time. Oh, it's, Jen,
Yeah.
it's,
Do you want me to should I
wow.
Google it and share it?
It looks like a TV show.
Oh.
Is
Oh,
that right? Uh,
Neo Genesis. Neo Oops. Genesis.
oh, yeah, there we go. Jeff J says it's an anime series,
Oh,
Japanese
wow.
cartoon show.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
I gotta watch now.
Yeah, right. I'll just share it very, very briefly, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
My
and
goodness.
I'm going to hazard a guess here without knowing anything about it.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say nothing.
Nothing I was gonna say very little. But
But
thank you for the question, though. It's yeah,
yeah,
brought it
thank
to
you. And
my
I'm
attention.
super stoked to see this now. I am all about one of the things I very much love are these intersections between ancient history, uh biblical and
Uh-huh.
ancient literatures and pop culture.
Totally.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm all about that. So, thank you.
Awesome, yeah. Um, LDEM, initials for the person, asked a couple questions, which the first one in particular is, what do you wish most people knew about the Dead Sea Scrolls? So I think that's also I'm interested in that question. And who is your favorite metal band? Love your work, Dr. Kipp.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
an awesome question. Both of those questions are awesome questions. So, most of the texts that I work with in the Dead Sea Scrolls are quote unquote biblical texts.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm doing this. Jen understands why I'm doing this. Because this is an extremely anachronistic idea of biblical manuscripts in early Judaism. The Dead Sea Scrolls were all written and collected between the late 3rd century BCE, so 200 maybe 250 BCE up to the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Some of them in some of the other caves actually stem from later periods up to the Bar Kokhba revolt in 134
32,
ish,
35.
32, 34. Right.
Yeah.
I always get the dates wrong, but
I
whatever.
yeah, whatever. Yeah. 32 to 35
So,
is what I was
anyways, So, yes. One of what so
So biblical,
biblical
right.
at this time period is an anachronistic idea because we're dealing with a period in Jewish history where t- sacred literature is just kind of starting, maybe not starting, but there's an increased focus, I
Mhm.
suppose is maybe a better way of putting it, on developing collections of sacred texts, which is ultimately what the Bible ends up being. But one of the things that we do discover in the period is that, various different Jewish groups, and there were a number of various different Jewish groups, had very different
Yeah,
ideas
and things that they were
about what.
focused on. Yeah, sorry.
And yeah, on a textual level, right?
Yeah, right.
Very different ideas about what they considered in
Mhm,
or out
mhm.
of, their scope
Right,
of
and even
tradition.
right, and how to properly, interpret them. Just like
Absolutely.
today.
So, I'll say, like, I spend most of my time, working with texts that, uh, also appear in
There you go.
our
There you
Bibles,
go. Yep.
okay?
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about the Protestant
Yeah,
biblical canon here.
right.
In the Dead Sea Scrolls, there are copies of every book, a cop co how do sorry, there is there are copies, how do I put this? I'll just say it like this, and then I'll kinda unpack this.
Yeah.
There are copies of every text, uh, in the Protestant Bible or the Jewish, canon of scripture from Genesis through to, um, Malachi, or Genesis through to Second Chronicles, whichever
Mhm,
way you're
mhm.
you're
Right.
you're figuring this,
Yep.
except for, the Book of Esther. There's none. And the, possibly, the Book of Nehemiah. There's
Mm.
none from the Book of Nehemiah, but we have suspicions that it was there just based on the presence of a couple of fragments from Ezra.
Ah,
The reason
uh-huh.
for that is because at the time, it seems like Ezra and Nehemiah were probably collected together.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, very early. Yep.
So there.
Yep.
Now there were also, fragments from the Book of Tobit, which is in the Catholic, the
Mhm. The
Apocrypha,
Apocrypha. Mhm.
um, as well as possibly, a couple of fragments from one or maybe two of the additions to the Book of
Oh,
Daniel, some of
oh,
the extra
yeah.
stuff,
Okay.
but written in Aramaic, right?
Mm.
Super exciting stuff.
Totally. Yep.
Um, and and then there's also, lots of copies of the Book of Enoch, which is in the Pseudepigrapha,
Mhm.
the Book of Jubilees, which is, another pseudepigraphic text, a book of, a text known as the Aramaic Levi document, that the Testament, the Testaments of the 12 Patriarchs. Like, these are all texts that we knew of prior to the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but now suddenly we have, like, manuscripts, right? Like,
Mhm.
really, really
Pretty
old
exciting.
manuscript
Yeah.
copy, very exciting stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, this is most of the stuff I work with are copies of these sorts of texts. Now, um, when I say biblical, one of the problematic features of this is, so when the scrolls were discovered between 1947 and 1953, it was a suddenly where scholars had like a couple of tiny little bits of manuscripts that actually date back to, uh, anywhere close to this time period.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
of a sudden, they had tons and
Mhm.
tons of material.
Mhm.
Uh, Pretty overwhelming.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the very first step in this process of going through the material was sorting. You basically work from what you know to what you don't know, right?
Right.
This
Right.
is this is the way we do anything
Right.
properly. I think, in science. So they started with what they knew. Oh, look, here's a copy of Genesis or Exodus
Mhm,
or Deuteronomy or
mhm.
Samuel or Psalms or what have you. So they just set those, they set those aside and said, these are biblical manuscripts because, it's stuff that appears in our Bibles. I
Right.
don't think they gave it a lot of thought beyond, oh my God, look at all the material I have to work with. To wrap my brain around this, I have to do this. So,
Right, right, right.
and then they looked at other stuff. There's tons. So this comprises about 30% of the whole collection, somewhere between 230 to 330 of the manuscripts in the Dead Sea Scrolls are these types of texts. The numbers fluctuate quite a bit because it really does depend on some of the other, everything that you're putting into it. Also, the way that you're dividing some of these manuscripts, it's not entirely clear that um this is just uh a copy of one text, or there might be a couple
Oh,
of
okay.
texts,
Yeah,
together on this
on
scroll.
one
So
scroll.
some
Yeah.
of this, and then I don't know if we're gonna even have time to get into this today, but there were you might have heard about this, but in 2002, there were a bunch of forgeries
Mhm,
of Dead Sea Scrolls fragments
mhm.
that hit the market, and that fucked everything.
You're right.
Messed
Yeah,
everything up. It just
yeah.
did. So that has affected the numbers as well. So
Hmm.
biblical manuscripts, non-biblical manuscripts are virtually everything else, but among these
Mhm,
is just a huge range of material. There are things that scholars have identified as sectarian
mhm,
literature. So these
mhm,
are texts that we believe, the Dead Sea Scrolls were written. Most scholars will tell you they were written and collected by a group of Jews called the Essenes. We know about them from Philo
mhm,
and from Josephus. They provide some descriptions of them, and
mhm.
based on the way Philo and Josephus describe this Jewish sect, it seems to align relatively closely to the material we find in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So scholars have sort of constructed an Essene theology
Mhm.
and started to put texts into that and say, you know what, this is probably stuff that they wrote and they, collected as part of their, you know,
Worldview.
their corpus, part of
Mhm,
their worldview.
mhm,
This is all
mhm,
reflective
mhm,
of their worldview.
mhm,
So, but then there's a bunch of other literature
mhm,
that is not biblical,
mhm,
right? But it's
mhm.
also not sectarian.
Theological, yeah.
It's just other stuff.
Like
Um
how to
Jewish literature.
uh how to run a
Um
community,
well,
no?
most scholars would
Communities.
would would call that's sectarian,
Oh,
right?
oh,
That
okay,
that is
okay.
stuff that they would include, but I'm thinking of things like for example, and this is I think one of the more interesting, for my purpose, this is one of the more interesting groups of texts in the Dead Sea Scrolls, are a grouping of manuscripts that scholars have come to identify. Originally, they identified it as reworked Pentateuch,
Mm, mm,
um, and these were single manuscripts containing uh, text from Genesis all the way through to Deuteronomy,
mm,
which on its own is really unusual and
mhm,
exciting
mhm,
because
mhm.
among all the Dead Sea Scrolls, one of the things that we don't see a lot of or much of are Torahs.
Ah,
You
okay,
know,
okay.
so Genesis comprised its own scroll,
Right,
Exodus comprised
right,
its own scroll.
right.
People, we seem to be in a working with a period of time when people are just starting to put these things
Together.
together.
Yeah.
We have a handful of examples of this at Qumran, but the rework Pentateuch I think is really exciting because we have 5 copies of this text. It appears to,
Hmm, hmm,
comprise everything from Genesis through to the end of Deuteronomy, but it's not very close at all
Okay.
to our Torahs.
Okay. So you're
Text of
saying that there are 5 copies of a collection of the first 5.
Yeah.
So there's,
So
like,
if
1
I
copy of the first 5 here, and there's another one in this cave or wherever
Yeah,
they were found, but
yeah.
they were that's
They
really interesting. Okay.
they were all found, I believe they were all found in cave 4. There's 11
Mm,
K
mm.
11 caves. Uh,
Right.
it's, cave 4, far
So
and away
it was a big
had the
one.
most
Yeah.
manuscripts,
Right.
probably close to 600.
Whoa! Oh,
Uh,
wow.
it's
Wow.
it's a huge number, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
this too, in terms of proximity to the site, it's only like you've been, I assume.
I
You
haven't.
could Oh my goodness.
I
Okay.
know.
You could throw a stone
Okay.
from, the site and you'd hit the cave. So
Okay.
it's
Oh, wow.
really close.
Yeah,
It's a
makes sense.
man-made cave.
Huh.
So this is
Yeah.
and the way scholars have interpreted this is that this was their library. This
Library.
is,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
things, the other caves are related to Qumran, but in different
Uh-huh.
ways, and it's complicated, and
Uh-huh.
I won't get into that. But
Yeah.
but anyways,
So
um,
so you're saying that the reworking of them is the variations or retelling of Genesis,
so
or what do you
it's
mean?
the text. It's in terms of the text type. So we have within Hebrew Bible studies, textual criticism, scholars have identified a variety of different text types of the Hebrew Bible.
Mhm.
The main ones being the Masoretic text, the Septuagint, and the Samaritan Pentateuch. Of course, the Samaritan Pentateuch is only the first 5 books
Right.
because it's the Samaritan Pentateuch. um, so,
Pentateuch means
but
5, I
what's
suppose.
really, really interesting, so the reworked Pentateuch doesn't look anything like any of these, but it looks
Uh-huh.
closest to the Samaritan Pentateuch.
Oh, really?
Very and so, it's kind of its own thing, and the reason it was called reworked
Yeah.
Pentateuch,
Yeah.
was because of this problem. It doesn't fit any pre-existing category of, the texts that we know. Scholars were extremely reluctant to identify it as the Pentateuch because of the dramatic textual differences within it.
Hmm.
So this name stuck for a long time,
Hmm.
and a lot of the work that I did in my PhD dissertation was right around this time when many scholars were raising these questions about why are we excluding this from the conversation of the transmission of
Uh-huh.
the biblical text.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
it's the Pentateuch.
Right.
So, and this is one of my things is for those who are interested in this sort of thing. Um, s- one of the questions that I'm really interested in is when and who
Yeah.
were the first to come along and decide, let's put these 5 books together, the
Mm.
Pentateuch, right?
Okay. Okay.
I think it was probably the Samaritan Jewish community.
Aha.
And I think
Interesting.
the manuscript evidence
Uh-huh.
from the Dead Sea Scrolls supports this conclusion.
Agree. Okay.
And then
Uh-huh.
what happens with the Hasmoneans
Mhm.
is reactive. They're responding
Ah.
to this. Well, we've got our own collection of
Oh.
biblical text, and this is really the one by Moses, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
I
uh
I feel like I need a little bit more clarification, if you don't mind.
okay. Yeah.
Now, just maybe an example or 2 of
Uh,
when you say it was reworked,
yes.
what wa
So,
in what ways are we seeing that?
one of the key features of the rework Pentateuch, and this is
Yes.
also a feature of the Samaritan Pentateuch as well, is a tendency towards harmonization.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware of this, Jen, but there's a lot of places in the Pentateuch where the texts they don't
I've noticed. Yeah.
you can't put them together. They don't
Yeah.
they don't align. There's a
Yeah.
lot of repetition in the
And
Pentateuch
contradiction because of that
and
in slight
contradiction.
ways. Yes. So,
So
so we get
one
the
of the
point.
things that
Mm.
you see in the Samaritan Pentateuch is this effort towards bringing these inconsistencies within the text into harmony.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
here's a
Lord.
contradiction. Let's fix it.
Wow. It's a lot of work.
And you see the same thing happening in these reworked Pentateuch texts
Hmm.
in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I think the tendency towards harmonization is something this is logical. This is something that begins at the point when somebody decides, let's start putting these texts together.
Yeah. Right. We want to have something that is a little more stable so that we can
Yep.
it's easier to pass. Yeah. That
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, I've said a
yeah.
lot, but I'll just say so. I've said a lot about, and that's maybe a lot of one of the things I wish more people knew about
Yeah.
the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'll just say this as well. And this is from I owe this to my brilliant Dr. Father, the great George J. Brooke would always tell me that when he taught introduction to the Old Testament, he would always start with the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh.
Um, and from my perspective, of course you do, because this is where all of our hard evidence for the text is. These are the earliest copies
Uh-huh.
that we have
Uh-huh.
of the Bible. This is the place where we should start our conversations
Hmm.
about what the Bible is. Now, of course, huge numbers of these texts extend way far back into the past before the
Mhm.
3rd century.
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
think we need to take our very good friend and colleague Matthew Monger has a channel called The Bible Was Written Backwards.
Hmm.
And this is the approach that he's kind of working through. And I think this is probably the right way
Mm. Mhm.
for us to think
Mhm.
through this is we start again. Let's start with what we know. What we
Mm.
know best
Hmm.
are these manuscripts, and then let's start working backwards
Hmm.
from that.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a lot, and I'm sorry I took so much time to say all
Well, no,
that. My
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Okay, and my
Yeah.
favorite metal band,
Yes.
it's always hard to pick just one, and it depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
So
Right.
right now I have a bunch. There's a bunch that I have on in my playlist on Spotify that I cycle through. Unleash the Archers is a local band here in Vancouver that's
Hmm.
phenomenal. Really like
Nice.
them. Goshida is one that I've been listening to a lot most recently because they performed at the Summer Olympics. But I've been a huge fan of theirs for many years. I'm a big fan of a Norwegian metal band called Kvelertak. Although more of the recent stuff's kind of the old stuff it's
Mm.
incredible. By the way, Kvelertak means something to the effect of strangling you. I don't know. Uh,
Yes.
I'm also a big fan of the Finnish metal band Amorphous. I love the great classics for me are Iron Maiden and probably I really like Sepultura as well. And then I still have a real soft spot for uh Christian metal, and some of my favorites over there continue to be Believer is a big one. There's actually a current Canadian, or sorry, a current Christian metal band by the name of Theocracy. It's a terrible name,
Yeah.
but and they have some pretty terrible songs
I was
too,
like, do
but
they
it
know? Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sounds so good. I think they do, and I
Yeah.
think they're leaning into it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
makes me sad,
Mm.
because the music's awesome. So there's those guys. There's a one of my favorites, and I love dropping this one, is a band called Trouble. And yes, they are a Christian band.
Okay.
Um, but were also a pioneer. They are from like the 1970s and the
Oh, wow.
1980s.
Mhm.
Lots of people struggle to recognize them as a Christian band because um, they were really they were really working through their faith, which
Mm.
often included a lot of heavy drinking and drug use.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
it takes all kinds.
Mhm.
But yeah. So there's a few.
I
Striper,
love it.
yes. I still have a soft spot for Striper. Um, on that
Nice.
note, I am going to tell a little story.
Please.
Jen,
Yes.
we were for a time prior to last year working with our good friend Derek on doing a trip to Israel. I
Mhm.
don't know if you remember that.
I was signed up I mean, I was in the yeah, was looking forward to it. Yeah,
We were gonna go.
you were.
Originally, one of the original dates was around April. We were going to be in Israel over Easter. It got moved back then to like September of I think either this year or next year. Of course, it didn't happen, but
Mhm.
at the time when it was still looking like we might go in April 2024, March or April 2024, I was delighted to discover that at the time we were supposed to be in Israel, Striper
Oh.
was also doing a
Oh my
tour
gosh.
of Israel.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
but it was funny because I laughed hard when I saw this on their itinerary. They were planning to go and visit the city of David on the Sabbath, um, which is funny because they're closed
Right.
on the Sabbath. So, ah,
They
sorry.
yeah, some
I took way
research.
too much time to answer that
No,
question.
no, it's totally fine. I 'cause I no, I appreciate that. I appreciate both parts, and I just have never personally just looking into the Dead Sea Scrolls has just never been something it's not a place I wanna put my time, and it's not out of disrespect, it's more like, wow,
I
there's
do
just
it so
it's a
you don't have
lot.
to, Jen.
Well, that's right, that's why but it's like, there's just a lot to know, like, it's a big thing, and so it feels
Yes.
like you either are gonna put some time in or you're not gonna do it justice, just like every other field, really, but, so I appreciate
Like
having
anything.
just a couple yes, right, a couple nuggets things to think about, things to know, why we should care. But that the specific thing I do want to highlight, right? The question, why should you care about the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? Because of how early they are, the earliest
Yeah.
manuscripts that we have that parallel or diverge from, right? The
Yes.
versions that people read of these same stories and texts today, right?
And
So
I think
there's
on that yeah, on that second point, I think is really important too, because so I do it's kind of on hiatus right now, but I will get back to it. I did start like a proper long form series on my channel all about the Dead Sea Scrolls
nice.
called The Dead Sea Scrolls Unapologetically.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Um And one of my goals in that series is to show. I feel like a lot of the popular narrative about the Dead Sea Scrolls has been co-opted and hijacked by two groups of people. On the one side, you've got the History Channel, Ancient Aliens guys, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, and that's fun. But
It
come,
is.
let's get real here,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's I like to kind of go there for, every now and then, I'm like, just yeah.
It's good for a laugh.
Mhm.
But I find myself wanting to correct a ton of misinformation on that side.
Mhm.
But probably more problematically, as far as I'm concerned, is on the other side, they've been co-opted. These narratives have been co-opted by apologists. The
Mm.
Dead Sea Scrolls are our earliest attestation of the Bible. They prove that the Bible is true. They show
Oh,
how accurate the Bible is, and how faithful the scribes were in copying the Bible, and you
because
can
'cause they've not
trust it
looked at any of it.
100%. Or they've looked at it very, very selectively,
Yeah, yeah,
because one of the things, I mean, you can make that argument if you're, just kind of picking and choosing a couple of manuscripts from the hundreds that are there,
right,
right? And
right.
not properly contextualizing what's there
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
When I'm on this point, one of my favorite things to tell, a popular Christian apologetic trope is that the Book of Daniel, as you know, as most people with an awareness of critical biblical scholarship are aware, the Book of Daniel was written in the 2nd century
Mhm,
BCE, or
mhm,
at least, the latest portions of it were written in the
mhm,
2nd century BCE.
mhm.
This is very troublesome to a number of people who continue to argue that this was, a straightforward reportage by Daniel himself from the 6th century.
Right.
Um, and then when they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, lo and behold, there were quite a few copies of text from the book of Daniel. Some of it's pretty early too. Like, some of it dates back to like the 120s
Hmm,
BCE.
mhm.
And the argument was commonly made that, well, there's just no possible way that the book of Daniel could have been written in, the mid 2nd century, because it takes more time than that for it to catch on and to become this popular, right? Which is a silly argument. I hope
Mhm,
everybody
mhm.
sees how silly that argument is. But one of the really
Right.
exciting things about the manuscripts of the Book of Daniel in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's 8 of them. I got that right that time. There's 8 copies.
Ha!
Among those 8 copies, there are 2 that contain text from the entire Book of Daniel, from
Ah,
chapter 1 through chapter 12.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Those are dated to, like, the earliest one dates to like the early Herodian period, so that's the 30s BCE, and then the other one is dated pretty close to the destruction of the Jerusalem temple in
Huh,
70.
huh,
Now,
common error. Mhm.
all of the rest of the fragments of the manuscripts of the book of Daniel
Yeah.
contained either only um, some
Mhm.
or all of the Aramaic tales in
Ah,
the first half,
uh-huh.
or some or all of the Hebrew visions in the second half,
Okay.
which I think is really, really interesting,
Mhm,
because what this
mhm,
shows is that Qumran, those who were writing and collecting the Dead Sea Scrolls, they were right in the middle of
mhm,
this process of putting
mhm.
these things together
Together. Yeah.
for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Cool, eh?
Yeah.
And that's to say nothing about among the Aramaic Dead
Mhm,
Sea Scrolls,
mhm.
there's a bunch of other things that are Danielic,
Oh, interesting.
uh, additional Aramaic
Uh-huh.
stories
Yeah.
about Daniel,
Oh,
featuring
interesting.
Daniel.
That aren't
Uh
in the canonized version.
So really, like, it really looks like there was,
Hmm,
in some Jewish communities before in the early 2nd century, or maybe even into the 3rd century, there really seems to have been, a you know, a a yeah, Daniel literature. How do you put it?
right.
Like,
Yeah, okay.
stories of
Yeah,
this
yeah,
guy,
yeah, yeah. This guy was important.
popular, and they're all sort of the same, right? They're all morality tales
Mhm,
about this
mhm.
brilliant
Staying true.
Jewish prodigy staying true to
Yeah.
the Torah of
His belief.
Yahweh
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
foreign land, right?
And
They're all
persecution.
like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, which does circle back to the point, in a sense, where we started in terms of the apocalyptic nature of these
Yep.
of Daniel and of what because of that, right, the perhaps the popularity of Daniel in this community, along with other factors, people tend to talk about the Essenes as being very apocalyptic. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but that's bringing us back to our starting point.
Yeah.
Um, there are a couple more super chats and questions I wanna make sure I get to,
Yeah.
because you may
We need
have
to do that.
we wanna do that, and I wanna I'm enjoying this conversation, Kip. I don't know about you. Um,
Awesome. Me
yeah.
too.
Thank you so much, Archival Blob. I don't know what SEK is. Do you know what
Swedish kroners.
Swedish Kroner. Okay, thank you, Archival Blob. You probably know this person personally. Thank you
I
very much for the stream.
well,
Oh, you don't. For the stream
yeah,
so far.
internetally,
Okay,
virtually.
gotcha. Okay, yeah. Enjoyed listening as I was doing some work at the computer. That's lovely. I
Oh,
love that. I love that people
thanks,
do that.
archival blob. Good to see
Yes.
you.
Yeah. Wade Rogers, a
Mm.
regular I don't know if he's a regular in yours as well, but Dr. Tabor believes John the Baptist and Jesus were Essenes or were affiliated with them. Your thoughts? Rock on, Dr. Kipp.
Rock on, dude. Uh, yeah. So, I do not believe that Jesus was an Essene. I think John the Baptist might have been. Um, now, and I think if he wasn't an Essene, then he was clearly part of a lot of the same kind of ethos.
Milieu.
I
Mhm.
think sometimes the boundaries that we set around these groups too tend to get a little bit a little bit
It's
hard.
misleading or confused. Yeah, right. Because it's not like they're just a bunch of Essenes here. And
Yeah.
then over here
So
you have right, Sadducees, and over here no, it's like
yeah,
just like in any community, right? You have people
I
that
think
have
so.
different yeah.
Yeah, so I think he was he was within this conversation certainly, and
Mhm,
and part of something that looked like the Essene movement, and we see this in there's this focus within the theology that scholars have been able to reconstruct in the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's this strong focus on getting out and going into the wilderness in order to prepare for the coming of Yahweh. But that's not to say that all the Essenes were living in the desert either, right?
right, right.
Like Scott, we're pretty convinced that there were Essene communities all over the place,
Mhm, mhm,
and there were Essene communities inside the cities too.
mhm. Okay.
So
Government.
some of this is more, I think taking on also more of a spiritualized emphasis. So but
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm,
so there's that. The other thing, and John the Baptist message was that um prepare the way
mhm,
for the coming
mhm,
of Yahweh.
mhm,
Um, it's part of his message, and
mhm,
also, he was doing baptism,
mhm,
which is a form of ritual purification, which is something that the Essenes also did. So, it's difficult to conclude though that he was an Essene
mhm,
just because
mhm.
this is all we really know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think if you're going to put him somewhere,
Mhm,
that's probably the closest
mhm,
place
mhm,
to it. And I tend to think Jesus probably was not, because even though he shared elements of the Essene theology, um, I think there was just another step, maybe movement away
mhm,
from various things that they were all about. Jesus, I believe the historical Jesus was in fact probably a much more inclusive sort of person
Mm.
than the Essenes tended to be. And I don't misunderstand what I'm saying there.
Mhm.
Inclusive in the sense that that he was not. I I think he was promoting what he believed to be a kind of a global Jewish message, which is a little different from what the Essenes were.
Mhm.
The Essenes weren't interested in accumulating followers or converting anybody. They were perfectly happy just to keep to themselves,
Right.
and the rest
They
of you can go to hell.
well, yeah, and I don't I also think, well, this is me, so I don't wanna I think that Jesus was all if there's a guy, I always say that, if we're gonna
Yeah.
posit a guy, which I just I don't know what to do with that, but, uh, a guy doing this thing, yeah, he was much more at least the message I see in the synoptics is much more interested in kinda taking something going after the man, right? Like, critiquing
Yeah,
critiquing the
definitely.
leadership, like,
Yeah,
in the mix more than just staying over here to stay safe and pure or whatever
yeah.
in terms of what
See,
we generally see. Go ahead.
like, I think and so some of that comes out a little bit too. Like, within the text of the Dead Sea Scrolls, you certainly do see, sharp criticisms
Okay,
of
right,
Jewish leaders and other
okay,
Jewish groups,
right.
but, you know, it's very like, one of the big differences I think you see is my impression of Jesus is that he was right out there with his full chest, you
Okay,
know?
right, right, right.
Um,
Yeah,
they were not. It's all the language is coded. It's all you know, um, it's kind of ambiguous. There's a cipher that you need in order to crack the code of the ways in
right.
which they're critiquing.
Right.
Um, and it's more like they, you know, they're the guys who took their ball and went home, and they're keeping it, right? Like, this is their approach to the rest of the Jewish aristocracy, is
Gotcha.
kind of like, screw you guys, we're just out here doing our own thing, and whatever.
Mhm,
They're
mhm.
sulking about it.
Yeah, I see what yeah, I do see
I don't think Jesus was sulking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you for that. We do have one more, and,
All right.
thank you, Adam S., for the $20 super chat. In the rise of the Martin Lutherans and Protestants, the heterodox, when they did their book burning of the first Christian cross? Or do we is that
I don't know.
Bible, First
Bible,
Christian Bible?
maybe.
Is there are there any books they miss that are similar to the Dead Sea Scrolls? I'm not sure if I'm
I'm not.
tracking entirely with this question.
I don't I'm afraid that I don't know anything about what the Protestants specifically were burning either. I don't know a lot about um you know, that part of our history. Uh so but I will say, like, I would not be surprised in the slightest if there are texts among the Dead Sea Scrolls that that were being burned by Protestants. I mentioned a couple, and somebody could maybe even let me know if this is accurate or not. But I mentioned a couple of books that they would have known about, the books of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees,
Mhm.
for example, are books that the first Protestants would have known of. Um, and these were very popular books among the writers and the collectors of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Very popular books. In fact, there's a theory that has been forwarded by a great scholar of the scrolls by the name of Gabriel Boccaccini.
Mm.
And I believe he takes some of this from Paul Sacco too.
I'm
You've
familiar
heard
with
of
Gabrielle, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Gabriel Boccaccini has made, I think, a pretty compelling case that the writers in the Dead Sea Scrolls were part of originally they came out of this elite priestly group in Jerusalem,
Okay.
who were competing with, what would have been the Zadokites or the Sadducees,
Mhm, mhm,
who controlled the temple.
mhm,
And so they were competing with them basically for power
mhm.
within the Jerusalem temple. He identifies this group as Enochic Jews,
Aha. Huh.
and he makes a pretty compelling
Interesting.
case that the Enochic Jews were not big fans of the Mosaic Torah. Rather, they their scriptures, their text, was the Book of Enoch. And
Okay.
it was, and he suggests that the Book of Enoch is a competing piece of literature that's both, um propagandizing for this Enochic temple sect, and polemicizing against
Hmm.
uh the Mosaic
The
the
rulers.
Mosaic
Yeah.
Torah Jews.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting
Wild.
idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, you know,
Fascinating.
and the writers and the collectors of the Dead Sea Scrolls kind of came out of this group. So,
Right. Right. Well, yeah. Thank you for that. I
ec-
think that's a
yeah.
fine way of
So, but
handling this.
yes, thank you for the question. I hope
Yeah.
that I hope that provides maybe a sense of an
Something.
answer.
Yeah.
It
A
gives
little
you
bit of
something.
something, food for thought or,
Yeah,
tangentially to what he's
yeah.
asking, I think, at least. Um, I do, wanna make sure I don't, like, miss out on asking something pertaining to your story while I have you here, but
Okay.
I don't think have any question because you ended up going in a way I didn't anticipate, and I love
I'm
that.
sorry
This
about that.
No,
Oh,
don't be sorry. No, this has been a very Kip kind of a thing, and I've enjoyed it very much. Yeah, this is just hearing the way you're
I
telling
have
the
two.
story and what you
This has been
Sorry,
very fun.
um, I do want to ask the name of the dog in the background.
That one
Yes.
is Dagon, the
Oh,
abomination of the Philistines.
I love it. Um, 'Cause
So
it has been here the whole time, and it's been
he
nice. He has been
Yeah,
here the
I
whole
know.
time.
He
Yeah.
is so he's a Belgian Malinois. Is he 3? I think he might be
Okay,
3 years old. How old are
okay,
you, buddy? Are you 3? Yeah. Are you 3? I think so. I think he
okay,
might be.
okay.
Um, so yeah, and, we've had him for 2 years now. I think my wife is a professional, dog trainer.
Oh, I think I knew that and had forgotten. So,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
So she does wonderful work with an organization called the Pacific Assistance Dog Society.
cool.
Excuse me.
Nice.
They train and place service dogs
Uh-huh.
for people with disabilities. And so yeah, that's what she does. She teaches dogs how she's an advanced trainer. So she does like, they start doing just basic obedience and
Mhm.
socialization and stuff, but she does like the skills training, teaching them how to open doors and
Uh-huh.
to pull people in wheelchairs, and to
Uh-huh.
really do whatever people need them to do. It's
Yeah.
it's a fairly client specific
Uh-huh. Sure.
kind of work,
Sure.
but she's brilliant. She's amazing.
Mm, I
That's
love
what she does.
that.
So we have
I love
we have a house full of dogs. That's
Gotcha.
that's you'll see him. You'll usually see him in my live streams just because he follows me around everywhere. But
Aw.
we actually have two other dogs that you'll never see because they don't care. Um, uh, we have a lab, a Labrador Retriever, named Skaha, who was in the program, the
Mhm.
service dog program,
Yeah.
but decided she didn't like working. So,
Oh,
some people, dogs are like people, right?
yeah. Right.
They all have their own personalities, and
Exactly.
you know, there's
Analogies.
just like
Mhm.
there's people who don't want to do this job. There's dogs who are
Yes.
like, no.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
that
then
was
there's some that are like,
Skaha.
"Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes.
How can I be helpful?"
Yes. So Skaha, she washed out of the
Okay.
program,
Okay.
and she
No
became
judgment.
our pet. Yeah.
Nice.
So no
Nice.
judgment, Skaha.
No.
We love you.
Yes.
You're totally useless, but
You
we
do
love you.
you. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have a miniature fox terrier slash chihuahua. Looks like
Mhm.
uh like a muscly chihuahua named Layla, uh and she's very sweet, but likes to snap at all the other dogs and sometimes
Mm.
people.
Mhm.
um so I call her the land piranha because yeah,
Biting, sniffing.
careful, she
Yeah.
bites. Yeah.
Exactly. This is what I oh, that was not what I meant to that
She
was
got
the
me on my
yeah.
knees. That's the one you
Yes,
want, right?
word.
I beg
Yeah,
you, darling,
sorry, that came
please.
in too yeah. Layla.
You got it.
That's right. Um, Kip, this has been lovely. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed hearing about your story and appreciate what you shared about what you do know about the Dead Sea Scrolls, a little snippet of it for us to first I know a lot of people follow you already, so they're probably already familiar with some of what you've said, but for me and for people on this channel, I appreciate you coming and bringing your expertise, and I just really like knowing more of your story now. That makes me happy.
I'm delighted to be here. It's super fun. You're super fun. So
Thank
it's
you.
uh
Thank
it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, this was
yeah,
lots of fun.
good.
So
Thank you. I'm gonna kick you
yeah.
out real quick and, wrap things up here, if you don't mind.
Oh, can I say a
You?
couple of things
Yes, of
about what I'm
course.
doing?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Uh within oh, what did this say? Within 1 hour's time. So at 2:30 this afternoon.
For
Um, Pacific,
Pacific.
sorry.
Mhm.
I'm on the
You're
Pacific Coast,
yes,
so that's like
yes,
what? That's what time is it now where you are? It's like almost 5, right?
yes, yes.
So listen, guys, in less than an hour, let's just put it that way. Uh, there's a there's a there's a YouTube channel called Rationality Rules.
Oh, yeah.
The owned and operated by Stephen Woodford. So he is dropping a video inside the next hours featuring myself and our colleague, Dr. Joshua Bowen.
Oh, nice.
And I'm very, very excited about this. It's the first of 4
Oh,
uh, episodes that we're doing,
okay.
all about the conquest of Canaan, in response to
Mhm,
some stuff that has been put out there, by a couple of Christian apologists.
mhm, mhm.
So we're stoked about this.
Nice.
We did the recording, I think, 2 months ago.
Okay.
This has been a long time in the works.
Yeah.
Steven has just finally got it put together, and he's gonna publish it here imminently. Um,
Okay. One,
and
like,
then
a
and
week
then
kind of a thing or all 4 at once
No, well, this first one is coming out, today.
today?
We
Mhm.
are we are recording, episode 2 on Saturday night.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it'll take some time,
Yeah.
before that one comes out. I expect
Okay.
the whole thing is gonna be a number of months here,
Sounds like it. Yeah.
over the course of
Yeah.
a while, but I'm super excited about
Nice.
that today. Of
Nice.
course, we have Diablo Critics on
Yes. We
Sunday,
do. Yes.
um, and we're going to be, spending some time looking at a huge piece of shit. Sorry. Sorry, it just comes out.
No,
Um,
it's fine. I cuss all the time in my show.
so apparently
Right.
Mark Driscoll is still a thing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so we're
And
we're doing that.
well, and it does represent even beyond him. Like, what he's saying is also things you're hearing, things that some people are saying in lots of places in terms of the
Yes.
election that's coming up in this country and
It
misinformation and underinformed ideas and all of that. So,
it's alarming. and then I've got
Yes.
so please everyone
Yes. Sunday.
show up on Jen's channel on Sunday
Thank you.
for that. And then one more thing,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah.
have a good friend who is a professor of Bible at Trinity Western, where I used to attend, and I taught there for a while too. So he's a professor of Bible at the seminary there. His name is Joel Karitko. He's a great guy. He's an excellent scholar. Um, Unfortunately, he has some I think what's the word I'm looking for? He made a couple of videos recently about child sacrifice
Mm,
in ancient Israel. I think he's wrong in his take and his approach to a couple of key critical texts in the Hebrew
mhm,
Bible.
mhm,
So, and he was making his response to a video, well, some stuff that our friend Dan McClellan had said on his Data Over Dogma podcast. So, Dan is getting together with me, and we've reached out to Dr. Heath Durrell.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Yeah.
Used to teach
Wrote
at,
the
I
book.
think he taught at Princeton, didn't he?
I don't know about that. He may
Okay,
have, but yeah.
but he literally wrote the book
Yeah. On
on child
child's
sacrifice in ancient Israel. The
yeah.
title of the book is Child
Child
Sacrifice in Ancient Israel.
cigarettes.
So,
Yep.
Dr. Heath Durrell is going to be joining Dr. Dan McClellan and myself to talk about this challenging
Mm,
but really interesting topic,
mhm,
and what's
mhm.
going on in the Bible. And we're going to address some of the problems in apologetic approaches and scholarly approaches
Yeah.
to the text, uh, which for understandable reasons are really reluctant to see the texts
Mm,
for what they are.
okay.
So
Okay.
that's coming out in the in November. And
Okay.
then I got one more. Sorry.
No, no, this
Um,
is great. I'm sorry I didn't
okay.
automatically just let you talk about this.
Oh
I meant
no,
to. So, yeah, that's
that's
good.
cool.
Yeah.
I got one more. Josh and I are interviewing uh, um, Israeli archaeologist Amahai Mazar
Mm,
on Sunday morning, actually, just before
wow, you're gonna
Diablo
busy
Critics.
weekend.
It's a very bit. It's I don't know what happened, but
How did you
it
yeah,
all just kind of
exactly. Uh,
right. But anyways, we're interviewing Dr. Amahai Mazar all about the archaeological situation in Canaan at the end of the Bronze Age and in the early Iron Age. That won't be a live show.
mm,
That's going to
mhm.
be a pre-recorded interview. So we're doing that on Sunday, and look for that to come out
Yes.
um
Yeah.
in November. I'll commit to saying I'll get this stuff out in November.
Mhm.
And as always, I have a Patreon, and if people are interested in getting early commercial free access to this kind of stuff, then sign up over there. It's just my name, and I think that's it. I was on the Danny Jones podcast, which was published this week. So check that out too.
Nice.
And I've
Yes,
got another one. So
some people were commenting on how they thought that was a really great episode. So,
it
I
was
am
it was
not
fun and
yeah,
interesting.
good. Good. Good, good, good. Yeah.
So
Okay. Thank you. Get the scoop. Get the, thank you for sharing that, Pragmatic Crystal.
oh,
Reference to
there's the
yeah,
course.
several people have yeah,
Yep.
have their courses there, and, I didn't do much bringing comments in because I was just focusing on our conversation, so, uh, yeah, that wraps it up for us, I think. I'm gonna
Well,
go ahead.
thank you so much for having
Yeah.
me, Jen. Thank you
Yeah.
everyone for showing up and listening to me prattle on about silly things for 2 hours.
It's not quite silly, I would say, but, the things that
My kids think it's
the
pretty
thing
silly.
well, I mean, it's your life work. I don't think it's all that silly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
awesome.
Yep. Hang tight. Um, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the chat. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for just hanging out with us. And for those who are watching it in the replay, I appreciate you as well. Um, yes, Diablo Critics this Sunday. Very excited to have another conversation with these guys because they're so fun. Next week, I'll be back to reading through the book of Acts. So picking up on chapter 5, and not sure how far we'll get with that, but I have that set already. And you can go ahead and see I have the other Diablo critics are lined up to come be on the story time, as well as a colleague of mine, Tina Pippin, who has been doing biblical scholarship for a good long while. She is a delightful human, also very good at being an educator. She's very interested in not just lecture style, but very interested in making sure people are learning and changing the way they think because of what their education is giving them. So I've not actually had just a personal conversation with her before. I very much appreciate her work. And so that'll be 2 weeks out from now. She'll be on, and I'm looking forward to that. So I hope that you all will as well. I think that's it for today. Thank you so much. It's fun to see everyone who's here, and let's wrap this up. Thanks. See you next time.